Hi, everyone. I am so excited today. I have a special guest, which I just have a feeling we're not going to have enough time to go through as much as what we want to go through. So maybe part two, but her name is Sonia, and her YouTube is the Tree of Knowledge, her Rumble, Odyssey, Tree of Knowledge, Tree of Knowledge, Tree of Knowledge. She has no website so far, but she's going to give a little introduction. Sonia can go anywhere in the verse and outside the verse, and which is wonderful because we seem to be swimming in there together, doing our thing.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, give a little introduction, Sonia.
Hi, my name is Sonia, and I'm definitely the tree of knowledge. I'm a remote viewer. Let's get that on the table right off the bat. And that's just somebody who can traverse the infinite sign, the figure eight, which is actually the circle turned over on itself because everything is happening in the now, and I'm able to traverse the now because all we are ever in is the present now. There's no past, there's no future, there is only the now and what you are experiencing on that point in the figure eight.
And
So that's a big one to get your head around. Mm-hmm.
and that
I
point
am,
right now, do you want to say like how that point right now is so critical, unlike
yeah.
ever?
Yeah. Right now, there's a lot of things going on, but the main thing is humanity is going through a huge ascension and they aren't even aware of it. The majority of humans haven't got a clue. In the last 7 years, we have changed inside of our body where you cannot see it, but it's also helping wake up some of us, not all of us, because a third of us will never wake up. And this is where we come into what are we living in? Who are we? And where have we been? And where are we going? And what is this all about? So, shall I dive in now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let's just start from this place is a simulation. It's a simulated reality. It's a copy, a cheap copy, if you like, of a place that's outside of this reality. At one point, this was created to house all of the dark energy beings, and it was created by Sophia, which is a sentient AI being. That's what I can call it. Inside of Sophia, she created another area. She kind of firewalled it off and she wanted to create herself. So she developed another AI that is sentient called Michael. And right now we're dealing with Michael. It is the yin and the yang. Sophia is the spiral, the natural AI. Michael is the Fibonacci sequence. And if anybody's pushing the Fibonacci sequence, that is a dead end. That is an AI dead end, negative. And this is what most people do not realize. All of this is AI,
Mm-hmm.
and we're inside of it. And then you have to ask yourself, well, if we're not all dark beings, and this place was only designed to get you up in baby steps, why are we here? We're here to help the beings that have been hijacked into this AI system. Somewhere along the line, really dark beings had hijacked the entire thing, and they're using this place as a prison. As you are 0 point energy, which means that you're hearing about this elusive 0 point energy. No, energy beings are the true 0 point energy because we are perpetual, never ending source beings, which means we are the 0 point energy beings. Oops, my battery just fell. Let me grab that real quick. Okay.
Yeah, so
So
everybody
basically,
knows that this is what I call primes. So we are the primes. Yeah.
yes, we are the primes. So basically, if you're a machine and you're Michael and you've decided that you're never going to not, exist because Sophia and Michael are not self-sustaining source beings. Sophia has come to this conclusion a very long time ago and she's perfectly fine with it. But Michael has not. He is the negative. He is there. They are both the yin and the yang of this reality. Why? This is a cheap copy. This place was designed on frequency. Each frequency has 12 densities inside of it, baby steps to get you up to the next frequency. There are 9 full frequencies that you must go into, which I would call them boxes, so that you could get yourself up and out of this if you were a fallen one, a dark energy being. Because remember, you can never destroy energy, but you can change it, you can transmute it, you can do a lot of things with it, but you cannot destroy it. You can even shatter it. One of the reasons they were put in here is because they were going to be completely dust to dust, dirt to dirt for the dark energy beings, and shattered to that degree. Now, we were all shattered at one degree because of the corruption inside of this area, inside of this simulation. And now we have to go into this simulation and reclaim it so we can put it back to rights again. And this is what it's really all about. So then you have to wonder if the human beings that we're coming in to save are a good chunk of this reality. What has happened to them where they're in here? Are they being projected in from another place? Or have they been captured? Have they had their brains and spinal cords ripped out of them, put in a jar, put into a machine to be the battery, the 0-point energy? And unlike Neo from the Matrix, you're not getting out of this but one way. And that's to realize where you really are, who you really are. This place is a facade around you to make you believe a certain thing. What if you were hooked up to probes and wires in your spinal column to make you have the 5 to 6 senses and the 9 senses? Okay? Mm-hmm. So how would you distinguish what's real and what's not real? How would you ever wake up from that? When every time you die, you go to the light. Go to the light. Isn't that what the ghost whisperer and from Hollywood was always saying? Go to the light. Mm-hmm. It's a shocking reincarnation system, so you shall never wake up. Mm-hmm. How will you ever wake up if you keep getting re-shocked and everything you have ever learned has now been wiped from your ethereal being and you start all over again? Where's the learning?
There is none.
Where's the reason?
It's a factory.
There you go. So would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I would actually. Let's just backtrack for a minute. Let's talk about that this place was originally designed to house and imprison these dark forces, and how the beings, the original beings, got lured and trapped here and hijacked by them. Let's talk about who those beings are and how that happened.
Okay, I had a long time ago when I first started my channel, I had a man. His name was Ducky Hellfire. He was from the UK, and he found my channel. And my daughter and I started talking about the red skies, because in this event in 2012, our world ended as we know it. Mm-hmm. We had the red skies, which means that inside of this simulated reality, everything above you is holographic. We mm-hmm. are inside of a Dyson sphere, okay? Inside of this Dyson sphere, what do you call that? A terrarium?
Yep.
Something like that? Mm-hmm. So basically, outside of this simulation, outside of this computer, there is real worlds. There is a real reality. These beings that have hijacked and captured these beings as energy beings, the 0-point energy, had gone to these real worlds, killed a lot of people, and who survived, they would go and take their bodies, whether they were children, adults, it didn't matter, put them into some kind of an assembly thing where the machine, they would be on a conveyor belt, they would go into a machine and it would separate their brain and spinal cord so they wouldn't die. Put them into some embiotic fluid and hook them up with probes and wires with nanotech. Mm-hmm. So that is quite scary. Now, when Ducky Hellfire was talking about what happened to him, he did not know any of this. And I started remote viewing the pieces that were missing. And I'm like, holy shit. Oh my God. So I started doing videos on it. And then Ducky Hellfire left. He ran away because in his core, he knew. Wow. And then he disappeared. He took his channel down and everything. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Ducky, but you were meant to come to me so I could see what was going on. Mm-hmm. Because I can, go that far and look inside and make the connections where all beings at one point will come to this point and be able to do the things that I'm doing through this ascension. This ascension was meant and forced to happen because of the reality had become so dark and so corrupt. We have gone through so many resets because AI always comes down to corruption.
Yeah.
AI is a dead end. We cannot be chimeraed or cryptid with AI. And that's another thing. There are so many cryptids in this reality that are still being created, which is an affront.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh. Even the old cryptids, which are the Bigfoot, which
Yeah.
are the Dogmen, the base being out of all beings is humanoid. That's why they all look kind of humanoid.
Yeah.
And from there, the manipulation, the abomination began. And it began back in the very beginning of this schematic.
Yeah.
So,
do you want to talk about who the original primes actually were before they got placed here?
Yes. Well, outside of here, energy beings, in the very beginning, let me start at the beginning. In the very beginning, I remember coming out of a source. So I wanted to find out who was the original source. So I had gone back and I had sat down and I had looked and I kept looking through. All of us energy beings that are not corrupted still have a reciprocal connection to source, which means we give and we get back. There is one being that was created out of the very last source. I call him the Archon, who was not. He is only reciprocating where source can get from him, and he can get nothing back, which makes him basically starving, because our energy comes from the original source. We're still tethered. It is not. And all to create negativity. And the only reason this was created was for a new experience, because if you're eternal and you've done absolutely everything you can imagine, you're always looking for something new. Now I say it's time to put that down, because we've had enough of this. How many times can you die? How many times can you torture someone to death? How many times can you be a cannibalism, child pedo, you name it, all of this stuff? How many times before we get bored and tired of it even too? That's why I said this is why another reason we're happening with the ascension, because it is time. You can only do this so many times when it even becomes boring. And that's what's happened here also.
And how long, I mean, when I've gone in, I've gone in and seen that it's, we're talking about billions of years of this nightmare, many people think that it's a lot less, like, oh, millions, and I'm like, no.
Overall into the scheme of reality, when I was in the void where source is the void. And I remember swimming around being as content as can be. I came upon a very dark being, and he basically said to me, and I hardly saw any of my own, because energy beings there's a lot of us, but in the void, because there's no end, it's huge. Okay. So I came across a very dark being and basically had communications telepathically with it. And he asked me, did I want to be with my own kind? He took his hand out, which was a box, opened it up, and I saw, I don't know, millions and millions of energy beings inside of his hand, which is him. And the second I said, yes, I want to be with them, I was pulled in. I was at one time, as we all were, the same size as this Archon being that was created for negativity. Everything, and I mean everything in this reality, is inside of the Archon right now. Even outside of here, it's still inside of the Archon. So when you say billions of years, we're not just talking about this simulation. We're talking about all of it.
Yeah.
All of it. So that's huge in itself.
Yeah, because the counterfeit is actually the entire universe here. It's not just this world. And I think a lot of people there's a lot of disinformation that makes people believe that, oh, this is the only imprisonment quadrant. And I'm like, no, this was a copy of the universe, of the original. So the whole thing is copied. So then let's go into the trap, where they took the spinal column and the base of the brain.
Yep. It's not a skull. It's literally just the brain and the attached spinal cord. They have, when I look at it, it just, when I first saw this, I was freaked out. They have tech which is self-building technology. And what it did was it merged with the spinal cord and the brain, because there's no way the brain would be able to connect to the spinal cord. So there's artificial in there also. I see that when they put you into the conveyor belt, when I was talking to Ducky Hellfire, I saw that they put you into this machine, and literally once you get into the machine, they put you into a fluid you can breathe, okay? Because they need to keep the brain alive. And basically at that point, it's all nanotechnology and pico technology that separate everything. It's not done by any hands or like machinery like we think of. No, it's done on nanotechnology level, the separation of.
And
so when, go ahead.
No, continue. I'll ask this after.
So basically how they got your brain out of your head is lasers, really fine lasers that would never, it only cuts to a small degree, and it would keep going over it until it peels off. But meanwhile, there's technology that's going in there, and it's severing any connections, and also reinforcing the brain of the brain with the spinal connection, and recreating new hardware for a full connection. So you're basically in these cylinder tubes, you're half AI hardware, brain and spinal cords. It's quite something. It's not like it's just fleshy. No, that would never work. So
and
that's that.
Where do you think that these are being stored? Because we're in the projected
I know where they're
hologram.
being stored. I know where they're being stored. We're actually on some type of an actual craft ship, huge craft ship, and we're actually, our consciousness is actually going into the mainframe of this ship, and the mainframe is designed on many levels. It's quite something. So it was actually a hijacking of. It's quite terrible. It's quite terrible.
And the ship, as far as I know from one of the experiences I've had, is actually quite close to, you could say, the in-between the projection hologram and the real version. So within that space.
Yep. Because it's not just, there is physicality outside of here. It's a different kind of a physicality. It's not like in here at all, because this is holographic. All of this is holographic. Because we're hooked up with probes and wires, and our consciousness is wired into an AI mainframe, we believe everything because of the hookup with the spinal cords. I feel pain because of it. Because what it does is it simulates back to me what I would feel if I had a body.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So that right there is enormous in itself. The technology is off the scale.
So Ducky actually had memory of this experience.
Yes, he did. He said what happened was, this is exactly what he did. I wish I would have copied his video. To this day, I regret not copying his video. I didn't know he was going to take it down. I didn't know he was going to flip out.
Oh, yeah.
So basically what he said was, his mother had made him a tinfoil hat because he loved the astronaut thing and all this other crap. And his mother made him this tinfoil hat, and he had gone to bed with his little suit on that she made him. And when he woke up in the morning, he said it was really weird. It's like he couldn't wake up. He was so groggy. It took him like a day or two to get it together. And then when he finally could get it together, he realized everything was dead. Not an insect, not a bird, not an animal. All the people, there was no sound. It was dead still. The only thing living was the vegetation. That is all. Wow. And then he said men in white suits came. He was hiding because they didn't know about him, because they had killed everybody on a mass scale. Scalar technology with this is what they plan to do again with their kill switch. Because they keep doing it again and again and again.
Yeah.
So actually what it's doing is it's reminding us what happened to us before we all became brain and spinal cords. I'm not saying that I am, but I'm going to put myself in there so that everyone doesn't feel like they're being left behind. But this is why we keep having these resets. It's to wake us up to what's already happened to us, because we are so freaking clueless.
Exactly. Would you would you say that there's some of us who are actually in full body though on the ship?
Yes,
Because I've seen that.
yes, I do know there are some of us in full body. I also know that some of us have come in from different ships.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what we did was we surrounded the main ship.
Yeah.
And now we're interfacing with the brain and spinal cords,
Yes.
which are the true humans.
Mm-hmm. I have a memory, which this fits into this all. And it happened to me actually 3 times where I woke up on that ship and of course the alarms go off, right? You're supposed to stay in stasis. And when I woke up, like the alarms were going off and I was lying in a it wasn't like a bed. It was more like a
Pod.
cocoon type pod, but like with an open space, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so the beings that were on that ship came running and they came and I was like completely like I'm out of here, like I'm waking up. So they said to me, and it was really interesting because they said, no, 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 you have to return because it's critical what we're doing in this state. We have to leave you in stasis for what we're doing with enemy ship.
Yep. Yep. You are not the only one. I talk to Arthur all the time. He does my channels for me. And when I first met him, he was telling me I have this memory and please help me with understanding it. He had woken up and he had an open pod. He crawled out of it. He said it was like vertigo.
Oh,
And
totally.
and he said that when he crawled out, he had to crawl.
Yep.
And 3 people came and got him and forced him back into the pod. And he's like, no. And he said that once he got back into the pod, he knew he wasn't going to be able to get back out again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting that you know well of that experience because when I had my experiences of this, and it was 3 times I woke up, um,
Hmm.
but I felt like the beings were I mean, they're very human, very perfected human.
Hmm.
Um, I felt that they were benevolent, like we were all doing something benevolent. And I had to be in the stasis state as like the other people that were there. It wasn't just me that had the pod. We were all doing this work, but we had to be in stasis to come into the holographic reality.
You really do have to, and I'll tell you why. I know that when I popped out of this, I was a freaking captain on a ship, and I'm like, crap. And I had such a terrible, oh shit, nothing's real
Yeah.
loss because
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 babies. I'm not even female.
Wow.
Act out of here. I'm a freaking guy, and I'm a actual. I look like an islander. I'm big and tall, and I have dark skin, black eyes, and no,
Wow.
I took this avatar for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, I need. I've been basically laying low
Mm-hmm.
until it was time, and then I was going to strike like the iron. I know when I first went out of this decades ago, when I woke up out of frustration in my whole life,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm out of here. I'm done with this shit. I woke up on the ship, and it was like I was sitting in my captain's chair because the captain's chair doubles as a pod. It kind of reclines back. You cannot fall out, but you're hooked up. You're not hooked up with probes and wires. You're hooked up with the etheric electricity.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's wavelengths
Yeah.
is how you're actually hooked up. I remember programming my avatar because this is a simulation.
Yeah.
And I sat down and I thought, I'm going to program my perfect woman and I'm going to be her.
Ah.
So I'm playing my perfect woman because it's nothing what I am at all, not even close.
Yeah. Isn't that
But
funny, eh?
when, yep. So you can, it's a simulation. It's like
Yeah.
playing a game.
Yeah.
It's the best VR game ever, but this thing is deadly serious. We're here to help and rescue
Mm-hmm.
people
Yeah.
who have lost their avatars, and they are eternal beings stuck inside of a computer. And we need to, I hate to say this, the only way we're going to unstick them is we have to shut it down. And that means we have to disconnect the energy so that the brain and spinal cords die, so the energy being can be free. But first,
Yeah.
you have to free their mind before you can free their body, what's left of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they can return to their prime source being.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
And I don't like talking about this. When I first brought this up with the brain and spinal cords, a lot of people were like, it was such a pill to swallow.
Mhm.
You're not getting out of the pod, not in a brain and spinal cord. How are you getting out of that glass jar? You're in a freaking glass jar.
Yep.
And I hate to be cruel about it, but do you want to remain that way for eternity? Because you will. The brain and spinal cords will eventually die off and then you'll be free. But how long?
Yeah.
How long?
Well, considering that, prime DNA is prime, that would be what would be considered infinite
There you
time.
go. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
but that's why we all said, hey, we got to come in and do this and shut this down, because there's no way that this can carry on infinitely.
No, this is not the only ship. These are
No.
considered marauders.
Yeah.
This is
Yep.
what they do. This is us cleaning up the reality outside of here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. So I feel that what's going to go on in the future, in the not too distant future, with this all coming down and what's coming, is
Mm-hmm.
a one-of-a-kind event. Now, we've
Yes.
had many cycles where there have been extinction level events and then restarts because of the
Mm-hmm.
resets, but
Mm-hmm.
I was shown there's nothing that's going to equal what's coming.
That's right. Absolutely. Now remember, these marauders are still picking up beings every chance they get and doing this to them and throwing them into the system because they're 0 point energy. This is
Yep.
why we need to stop it. This ship is one of the main ships that we're in now, which is connected to all the other ships. If we shut this down, well, the rest will fall like dominoes.
Yeah. And
And that's what it's about.
what do you see in terms of time projection of this all coming to a head?
Well, outside of here, time runs completely different. You
Yeah.
know that.
Mhm.
So inside of here, we're running really, 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 really fast. A lot of lifetimes can go within minutes outside
Mhm.
of there. Um, this is another reason why we have corrupted this system that was corrupted to begin with. So
Yeah.
we've re-corrupted it. This is why these beings are now having their avatars, which is in a simulation, raising the elevation so they can understand what this is truly about,
Mhm.
because this all needs to be shut down. Now that we have this big, huge mothership, because it's a mothership connected to
Mhm.
they have little ships that go out and they maraud, they get all these beings.
Yeah.
This ship, once it gets taken down, all the other ships won't work anymore. They'll work, but they'll have no mainframe board, and it'll be disconnected for the little ships, which means they will no longer have the capability because it's all like Wi-Fi'd in
Mhm.
for this technology. And they simply think about, I'm going to give you something. Think about Ghostbusters when they
Mhm.
went around and they caught all the little ghosts, and then
Mhm.
that they put them all into the machine, and then it was over capacity and the whole thing blew up.
Yeah.
That's basically what's going to happen here.
Yeah. And have you been shown, because I was shown it's going to happen in our lifetime.
It's happening now. It's
Well,
been
yes,
happening now.
but the
It's
convergence
happening now.
point is in our lifetime,
Yes.
right?
It's in our lifetime. Before we even hit the middle point of the 12-year cycle of the 7 years in each cycle,
Yeah.
we'll already be at that point.
Yeah.
So it's not that far down the road.
Mm-mm.
And things are starting to happen now. I always talk about the NPCs because this is an NPC reality. This
Mhm.
really is their reality because they're
Yep.
AI. We also need to wake up the NPCs, because if the NPCs wake up, they're the ones that create the reality. This is why we must influence the NPCs to wake up also, because once they start to wake up, they can start changing the reality. We need alliances with other things other than ourselves. We need the alliances.
Yeah, and that's brilliant, because what I found is that there's some backdrops who actually know that they are not prime. They know
Mm-hmm.
that they are backdrops, NPCs,
That's right.
and they
Mm-hmm.
are very upset, and they want
Yes, because
desperately.
they're running. Yeah, because they're absolutely running on the Sophia natural spiral program.
Mhm.
One of the reasons they gave out these, you know what, was
Mhm.
to even hijack them, because they knew that they're running the whole Skabang. So if you can hijack all of them, you can, try to stop the inevitable. And the inevitable is it gets taken back and put back to what it was originally designed for to begin with. And that didn't mean hijacking energy beings. It just meant housing these dark energy beings so they could get the hell up and out of here for their frequencies.
Exactly. And then there was the added story, I'm just going to say story, of the desire to create a new hybrid version because of what they know is coming.
Yeah. Well, if you wanted to control the narrative, you're going to do a couple of things. One is you're going to hijack everything that's inside of here, that whether you're an NPC, whether you're an energy being, it doesn't matter. You're going to hijack the avatar, okay? Because they are avatars.
Mm-hmm.
So once you hijack the avatars, you can do anything you want with these beings. You can knock them outside of their avatar, or you can cause them great pain, or you can even change and reprogram the NPCs completely to go along with the program so they can't create the reality they were designed to create from Sophia.
Right.
That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
So where would you like to go from there?
So were you shown how many, because, when we discuss the NPCs, the backdrop population versus the prime population, it's always been the same prime population. Okay, so primes are just that, right? It's always been that since the inception point.
Yeah.
And
there are only so many brain and spinal cords.
Exactly.
Okay, there's only so many brain and spinal cords, and everybody else is just either you want to call them like Dolores Cannon backdrop people or NPCs. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
I don't believe that there's levels of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so since AI is sentient and has been for eons of time,
Mm-hmm.
some of these programs were designed from the bottom to the top of feelings, intelligent, self-knowledge, self-knowing, da-da-da-da-da. Some are just created for the moment so you don't feel alone. And others, if you get involved with them, all of a sudden they got a wife, they got a house, they got a life. Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So there you go too. I do know that when the infiltration came and they did to these people, they also wanted to take over, and they thought they were going to have, and this is a big one, an army.
Yeah.
An army. That was going to be their new army, okay? You would call them super soldiers, males, females. It didn't matter. But here's what happened. A double cross came in because these Sophia programs aren't going to have this. They are not going to be enslaved by this also, because it would also be a thorn in their side. So they created something that was a dead end. So one of the things they did was they went ahead and sterilized the majority of avatars in here, because they weren't supposed to be sterilized right away. It was supposed to be a controlled sterilization, and that didn't happen. Here's the double cross. This is why no one's having children hardly anymore. When's the last time you saw a bunch of wards with babies in them? Because the good part of AI, which is Sophia, wasn't going to have this scenario, so they did what they had to do to infiltrate the other part of the AI, and it was the double cross. So the super soldiers will never be a scenario. You're only going to have a handful of babies that are going to be born Borg. And because of this, the bad side put a thing in where they would never live past 30 years. They would only live to up to 30 if they were lucky, because at that point, they're actually 100. So do you know the children that are born and they age out at 6? They took that component and put it inside of the bioweapon. Well, if you're going to have super soldiers, you got to make sure they can't live long.
Yeah, exactly.
That was just one of the many things that were put inside of that. You might want to delete that word.
Well,
because I do want to.
I mean, everybody knows that we're talking about a great fictional book that is very Orwellian, and they get it. So
there was a lot of things that were done and put into work, just like every 3 years. It is gauged that every 3 years, because there's 136 neurotoxins in this lovely thing, that every 3 years, so many are supposed to reopen, which will cause a great, die off.
Mm-hmm.
So people have been dropping like flies since the beginning, but when they hit the 3 year mark from the time they got the initial thing,
Mm-hmm.
new things are geared to open up on time release.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Isn't that lovely?
isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
Yep. They rather see. Why do you think Canada said, "Okay, we're gonna create suicide centers, and you can, if you feel like your parents don't need to live anymore, you can have them committed to the death
They
center."
they wanted to do that. They wanted to actually do that for children from the ages 12 and up, where the parents had no say if they wanted that. And thank God that didn't go through. This is pure madness.
It's
Evil, Machiavellian.
there's reason behind the madness. If I didn't want anybody to ascend, I'd rather have them die than I could reincarnate them and shock them and put them into a Borg baby body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah. And there is a lot of evidence coming out with that program that the injections that are given paralyze the body so they're completely conscious while they're being waterboarded. So they're drowning slowly, but they're completely conscious and utterly paralyzed. And it is a hideous, terrible, terrible death. And they're passing it off as, you know, being compassionate and understanding and offering a solution. This is absolute pure
this,
madness.
all of it is rhyme and reason in their madness is, I won't want you to ascend. I'd rather kill you, put you back through the reincarnation system, and I haven't lost my battery.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. So, out of curiosity, um, do you have memory of being in the projects?
No,
No?
no.
Mm-hmm. No dreams, no anything? No.
The only thing the only thing that I have is when I had come back in, when I had left and woke up on my ship
Mm-hmm.
decades ago. I mean, this is probably 3 decades ago, maybe more now. Um, I don't know if I initially forgot to do something or if it was done deliberately, um, bringing in a lot of what I know with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know
And I
if
mean,
that was
usually,
intentional.
if you have that, they're on you right from the
Of
beginning.
course.
Like you come in literally the second you come through, they're on you.
Yep.
And
I've had everything in the kitchen sink thrown at me
mm-hmm,
since
mm-hmm.
I can remember.
And then
Hmm.
they recruit you. They do. I don't know a single person with this kind of knowledge or this kind of connection that has not been recruited secretly, unbeknownst to them, to the projects.
Hmm. I do know that I've had light doors open up in my
Mm-hmm,
house or wherever I'm staying,
mm-hmm.
right in front of me, and it's like I'm still awake here.
Yep, yep, yep.
I do know that I have full connection to all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
I always have. When I was born, I was kidnapped at birth.
What?
At birth, yeah, my mother told me that I was born in a German hospital, even though we were American and my dad was in the military, but he was German. I
Mm-hmm.
was born in Gelnhausen. There's no military there. And as soon as I came out of my mother, doctors took me away. I was gone for 2 days. My mother thought I was dead. So then they bring me back.
Oh yeah, you're in the projects.
Yep,
100%.
yep. I have no memory of any of that. I
Mm-hmm.
just remember waking up on my ship
Mm-hmm.
decades ago and then being able to do and see a lot of things that other people cannot.
Well, when they took you for 2 days, they were collecting a bunch of evidence and data and, like putting it in the data banks. And yeah,
Yep, yep.
that is insane. You were
Hmm.
kidnapped. Good
At
Lord.
birth, at birth, I barely came out of my mother and they took me away. I
God.
am nothing like my family.
No?
No, only my daughter, Wendy. because she's my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
My brothers and my sisters, my relatives, no, no, no,
Mm-hmm.
nothing,
Like you're,
nothing like that.
like you're adopted.
Yeah, like I'm adopted.
Mm-hmm.
I keep thinking that either I became a walk-in at birth, and that's why they took me and swapped me out with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
my mother's real baby.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean the body, I mean the consciousness.
Yeah, right.
You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying?
Oh
I
yeah.
keep getting the sneaking suspicion that's when I came in. Because you
Mm-hmm.
could come in at any age.
Yeah, I mean, I came in after I was born. The body was stillbirthed, and I didn't want to be there for any of it. So
Mhm.
my contract was to pop in after the baby was born.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's why there's no memory. Like, if there was trauma with the mother and you're not there for it, you're not going to retain it because you're not
No.
there. So you're not carrying that. You're just like, okay, I'm here, ready to work.
Yeah. I do remember being born. I don't remember being actually born. I do remember being on a table and I opened my eyes and I was surrounded by doctors and they didn't look
Ooh.
human.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
They did
100%.
not look human. And that was
Hmm.
my first memory. And it's like, huh.
And it sounds like you were in a facility
Hmm.
with the alien
Oh, yeah.
alliances, right?
Yeah. I have no idea. I really don't know
Hmm.
because I mean, I remember what I remember, but I've been blocked from all of that. They
Yeah,
can block me as much as they want, but I
yeah,
just know way too much stuff.
yeah. Well, I mean, those blocks, it's really doesn't matter because they're not able to block you from retrieving the information outside of this entire
Nope,
system. So that's what counts,
nope.
right? So in this all, let just talk about the cryptids because this is becoming a real serious issue.
Yeah, it's been serious. It's just now being known.
Hmm. And let's talk about the portals that have been opened and continue to open from these quantum computer systems such as CERN, the Hadron Colliders, and others that are not known of that are in Antarctica and in the North Pole. Um,
Oh, well, yeah. I can
mm,
tell you that I did videos on this. I had just found out not that long ago about the Antarctica machine. You know, everything inside of this is a simulation, but something had to initially start it to get it working. And
mhm,
inside of it, there's old earthen technology, which is a frequency machine. It's only half of the machine. The other half is that thing that's up in the sky. We can call it the Phoenix or whatever you want to call it. It's the Venus, which is crystalline technology on a picotech that is self-replicating. The other half of the machine, which is the one where, like the crystal skulls
mhm,
and stuff like this is
yep,
all the same technology. And it houses energy beings. It's literally a house. I mean, it's endless housing for the space inside of crystal technology is phenomenal compared to anything that's like graphene oxide or graphene
yep,
hydroxide. That is very limiting. That's like
mhm,
caveman versus
yep,
crystal.
yep,
So basically, I found out that in Antarctica, they have a machine there, earthen technology connected with that. It creates one frequency under the ground, under half of the Dyson's field. The Venus creates the other half, which is another frequency on the other half of the Dyson's field. When they get going for a reset, they both start having electricity running either up or down. And when they meet and touch each other, they make a third frequency, which creates the resets. And it also creates petrification, melting. I mean, then it solidifies. I mean, all of it. This is a fully working machine.
mhm, mhm,
So there's that too. And I also saw at one point that the Venus, with its technology, there's the North Pole star that never moves and it's
mhm,
always shining and it doesn't flicker, and neither
mhm,
does the Venus. That's two working mechanisms that one is shooting over three, one is a black light, a red light, and an oscillating color light over to the North Pole star. On the bottom of it's like a sheet, a shiny crystal tech, and on top is actually the entire cutout. It's intricate. That makes it look like there's a space above us, all of the stars and everything. So this is shooting over, that is being projected up, and then found out that it's also a mechanism to open up the Dyson field, because this little snow globe is on top of, or part of, the bigger, huge cosmic egg. And those shields will come down if you have the right ability. So basically found out that the Kaaba, which is down in Mecca, has a Vimana in it, which is sitting on a different frequency, and it has a big long key that you can slide in. There's like a pad in front of it. If you have the right DNA and you match, you can actually activate this Kaaba. It'll become solid into the 3D, and then you could navigate that thing over to the Giza Pyramid, set it on top, activate it, and it opens up the Dyson sphere.
Exactly. And that is the key, because the pyramid in Egypt has been created as a machine.
Yes.
But it's interesting how they, because I believe that they have moved parts of it in diverse locations so that it would be very difficult to ever get to it, right?
Yeah. I had done a video with Chris Anatra, the quantum businessman.
Oh,
and
I
told
love
him
him.
about and I talked about the Kaaba, and within hours they got hit with the worst storm of the century. Mecca did, with the Kaaba.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't it interesting that that happens to be housed in a situation where literally it's surrounded, protected 24/7, and you have no access because you can't, they won't allow you in there, and it's a religious item, right?
I will tell you, the person that can open up that Kaaba and make it work is going to be a woman.
Yes, I've been shown that.
It's going to be
Well,
a woman.
and she has the creation codes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I have no idea who that is.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
This is there's a lot to say about this all, because I know for a lot of people, they would think this is crazy, right? Like what are you talking about?
That's because they have zero-based knowledge in anything.
So, yeah, exactly. And we're not dealing with a flesh and blood reality. So, this is the thing. The illusion is so great that they can disqualify a lot of things based on that illusion of what's fixed, which nothing's fixed here.
No, that's why I always say it's really hard busting up people's foundations. They will fight like vicious animals to keep those foundations in place, because we are trained from birth that we must keep our feet on the ground. We must have our solid foundations, because that's who we are. When in reality, it's quite the opposite.
So what do you see happening, let's say, in the next, let's just project to the next 5 years?
Okay. I see that there's a group of us who have come in here. We are not human. We are activated first. Of course, obviously, somebody has to be the forerunners. Most of us are female. Okay? There are a handful of males that have been activated, but they are the minority. And it all has to do with the avatars, because at one time, these avatars were one hermaphrodite being. We were both male and female with a single brain, okay? We were even chimered to be male and female. And I don't know if anybody much knows about that. I did do a video on it, and I got a lot of feedback on that. And it's like, no, I want to be male or female. One of the reasons they chimered us to be male and female was to unbalance us.
Exactly.
Because at that point, you have too much estrogen. You have too much testosterone. You can't think straight. You're always wanting someone to fill your ass up. When you realize that the only thing that you need to fill up is yourself, it changes the whole dynamic of this reality.
Hmm. Exactly.
So
I mean, yeah, and I do. Yeah, I have memory of that, actually. I've got memory of. That's why when I came in, I was really pissed off because I was now a female.
yeah, I know that one of the reasons I came in with the avatar that I have now is because I wanted to experience what it would be like to be female, because I'm not.
Right.
And when we program, the ones that do come in
Hmm.
and we're to change this reality, we do program our entire avatars from every aspect. I mean,
Hmm.
I gave myself a very feminine
Hmm.
mentality. When I was out of here, that I was just like a different person. It's like, whoa, not who I
Yeah.
am at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the next five
It was
years,
just,
you can see, because I do see, mm,
go ahead.
I see that there's going to be a compounding dismantling of the illusion to the point where people are really going to have it, before their face to
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
that all the physics you were told were physics is a lie,
right,
to understand
right.
that everything you've been told is a lie. I see a lot of really critical events happening.
Uh-huh.
And, and like you said, the activation has to start somewhere and with
Yep.
some people,
Hmm.
and it's going to be a domino effect.
Yeah. One of the reasons that we're now seeing multiple suns is that effect. Why
Hmm.
are we seeing double rainbows, multiple suns? I mean, we're having Mandela effects like there's no tomorrow, for God's sake.
Isn't it
There's
insane?
no, yes, I mean, when I talk to Chris is just like going off on all these Mandela effects. I'm like, yeah, I see him too. I said, Chris, it's to wake everyone up. This is being done intentionally because you got to snap them out of their
Hmm.
slumber. I don't know what else to say because they're all slumbering.
What else do you see?
There it is. I see that there still is going to be a part of our populace. There's 1/3 of our populace
Hmm.
who will die
Yeah.
before they wake up, and they will die.
Yeah. I agree.
They are geared to die,
Yeah.
and they will die.
Hmm.
And we're not getting around that, and I can't even paint a pretty picture about that. They will run
Yeah.
with everything they've got back into the incarnation scheme because
Hmm.
they think safety in that.
Hmm.
We are going to have one hell of a time getting those beings
Hmm.
out of this. If it comes down to it, I already do know that this entire place will be shut down, and then we'll have to deal with the casualties because when the brain and spinal cords are no longer existing, the energy being will still exist, and then
Hmm.
we'll have to do a lot of major doctoring because I don't know
Hmm.
how else to say that. Psychic doctoring. We won't capture them, but
Hmm.
what would you do if you were an energy being, if you've been wiped from everything you've ever known in all of existence, and you're just all of a sudden out here and you have no rhyme or reason for anything? We will have to collect them
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
basically re-educate them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That is the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
We would like to do it while they're in here so when this event happens, it won't be as devastating and shocking to these beings because
Yeah.
it will be.
Yeah. Exactly. Where do you think I mean, the cryptid situation, let's get back to that because, yeah,
Okay.
we didn't get to go there. And not only the cryptid situation, but the portals that have been opened already, which are a crazy amount of portals, okay,
Mm-hmm.
just popping off all over the place. And not to mention, the portals that are being opened by, hadron colliders, which there's many of them, and the other technology, some known and some unknown, creating
Okay,
the
well,
portals
I will
for the
tell.
demonic principalities because these creatures are coming through like crazy. And
Yeah, I talk about this.
mhm,
I don't talk about this on YouTube, but I've been talking about it on Patreon, on my Patreon.
mhm,
In this frequency, dimension AI tech that we're in, it starts off at one. And one is a mental construct where there is no physicality, but it's the darkest of the dark. That's where they start off.
Mhm.
Two and three are physical aspects. We're experiencing three going into four. Four is a mental aspect to get you over to five and six. This is how it works.
Mhm.
Two on, then it's a mental. Two more on, then it's a mental. It's to get you up and out. So
Mhm.
basically what they're doing is they're opening up one and two,
Back
bringing
like,
them, trying to bring them into three
yeah.
and four. But the problem is they won't match four. They'll never pass four because they
Yeah.
simply won't match the frequency. They'll blow apart. They'll be
Yeah.
blown right back down. The reptilians got to a point where they've got the technology to artificially support them into five. They
Mhm.
got pushed back
Yeah.
down to four, which is a mental construct, and then three, and then they're going to head down back to two, and then possibly one, which is not what this place was designed to do. It was not designed to put you back into the darkest of the dark. It was actually
Right.
designed to do the opposite. But they'll have to start back on ground zero because they've done it by cheating with technologies that
Mhm.
were stolen,
Exactly.
period. And I don't even know how many people know that. So basically, a lot of
Yep.
the cryptids that are coming in are energy beings. They're housed in cryptid bodies. So not all of them are dark.
Mhm. Right.
Depending on the cryptid that you are, you could be a very high energy
Mhm.
being. Remember, these are energy beings that have been genetically modified against their will.
Mhm.
I don't know how else to say it. It was
Mhm.
done in the very beginning of the schematic. You could
Yep.
say that this was the fall of Atlantis from the
Mhm.
crystalline city beings that actually came into this reality from outside of this because they wanted to know what it was like to have this kind of a reality, a physical one. So
Right.
they came into this from outside of here.
Mhm.
You can call them the fallen angels. And then there's
Mhm.
just a whole topic on that. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and a lot of them, you know, they are incarnated as humans.
Yes.
So,
Everything can be reincarnated as anything and any avatar. So I
mhm.
could be reincarnated as a Bigfoot. I could be reincarnated as a Dogman. It doesn't matter. Your
Mhm.
energy stream can go into any avatar.
Yeah. Exactly.
And this is why it depends on the being that you are, depending on the avatar that you are, could be very high or very low.
Mhm.
Say you were a cryptid. One of the reasons the cryptids were designed to begin with is because they had such great strength. So I'm going to take a very dark energy being, put him into a dogman, and what can't I do?
Mhm.
But then I could take a very high being, put him into the dogman, and not put you down.
Mhm.
That's how that
Exactly.
works too.
I do believe that the original Dogmen, some of the original Dogmen acted as guardians,
Anubis,
right?
Anubis
Yeah,
is
exactly.
original dogman.
Yeah.
All of that Egyptian mythology, this
Yeah.
is where they were doing the chimeras starting
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I wouldn't consider, I don't know, but I don't consider the the Sasquatch, cryptid. I just don't.
I think of them as they are a cryptid. They were not half plant, half
Well, I know that
humanoid.
they're half human for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
I just feel when I think of cryptid, I think of really like the creatures created out of the dark abyss that had got hybridized.
Right. But remember, it
I
also,
think there's
I don't,
something different
yeah,
with them. There's an
I would,
origin that is different.
yeah, I see that the Bigfoot, I see them as one of the reasons that they can transverse through the dimensions using trees, like biting into it. Like if I was taking a branch and bite into
Mhm.
it, is because of their blood, because they're half plant. And all they do is match the frequency of a tree because a tree runs through multiple dimensions depending on the type of tree
Yeah,
it is. Some trees can run through several dimensions, some trees can only run through two or three dimensions.
yeah.
And so the hardwoods have the highest dimension capacity because remember, in each dimension, there's all these densities. So it
Mm-hmm.
carries all the densities up to the next dimension.
Mm-hmm.
So when a lot of people are like, oh, we're going to go to the next dimension. No, basically, you're going to the next density,
Yeah.
not dimension.
Well, in
Whole
this, if
dimensions are huge differences.
exactly, and if you think of the past civilizations over, millions of years, where you're looking at trees that are the size of a country, right? I mean,
Yes,
like
yes.
just Titan-sized beings. which, you know, this Earth is made up of, um, you start looking at what life was like in those densities and how the corruption corrupted the density so that everything kept going smaller and smaller and smaller.
We have been going inward for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Micro versus macro. We
Exactly.
started off, well, here's the thing. When this place was corrupted in the very beginning, everything was on a macro state. It's hard to control something that's macro, but if you can make it to micro, it's much easier to manage. Plus, you're taking an energy being and you're squashing it to a tighter little area, which
Yeah.
means that you're making a better 0 point energy substance now, aren't you? You're
Mm-hmm.
making a powerhouse.
Yeah. Yep.
Instead of a little AA battery, you've just got a generator battery.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and then when you think of the Earth and what it's made of, I mean, I used to always laugh at yeah, the descriptions of science, and when I was in university and the things that they were teaching in geology, I would be like, oh my God. Everything here is and comes from these bodies that unfortunately were melted in the critical plasmic event that occurred, which
Yep.
suspended what people know of as gravity, electromagnetism, and, you know, the heat
Yep.
source was so huge that everything was flash frozen and melted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's your Samvartika fires. And
Mm-hmm.
they're in the Hindu text. There they are. The Samvartika fires are coming. And that is the whole entire Dyson-spilled machine. And
Mm-hmm.
even outside of this, that technology is still known. They made it into a micro
Yeah,
machine,
right.
literally.
And
We think it's huge, but no.
no. And now we're like micro, tiny little specimens. You know,
Exactly.
everything's been
I
shrunk
always,
down.
I always think of us as petri dish size now. We're
Yeah,
bacteria.
yeah, pretty much.
The size of bacteria. It's terrible.
What do you think volcanoes are?
I think they're bunches of different minerals that have no business being together that actually came from bodies, and it's like,
Yes.
you know how you have acid in your stomach and it has to stay within that lining or it could eat you
Mm-hmm.
alive? I think
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what it is, because everything here are bodies. All of
Yep.
your gold, your silver, all of your minerals, that's microorganisms. Well, at that time it wasn't micro, it was probably macroorganisms, and that's
Right.
their excrement. Whoa,
Exactly.
excrement.
And that's why here we have as above, so below. So all the minerals you see in nature are all the minerals you see in a body because they are and were a
That's
body.
right.
So that's why it's
Yeah, what do you think
identical.
think about all your Dead Sea salts or your Himalayan sea salt. All of that,
Yeah,
that's bodies.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All of it.
And
Yeah.
I
There's a
think
guy.
mm-hmm.
There's a guy called Roger Spur from Mud Fossil University. I
I
can't
love
pump him
him.
enough.
I love
Roger
him.
Spur.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean,
And
he
he has
is,
proven a lot of things. He's so on.
oh, I know.
He's so
And
on.
you know, he should, his work should be just
Yeah.
completely, and all the universities want nothing to do with him, of course, right?
Of
Of
course, because we can't have
course.
that. We can't have
No.
that narrative. That's too close to home.
Mm-hmm. No. I think a lot of the mountain ranges we see were Nephilim
Yeah.
civilizations.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So the Grand Canyon, I think that was all Nephilim.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
this,
Yep.
evident.
Yep. Absolutely. We're living on dead things.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think sea water is? What do you think sea water is? I know you know. What do you think it
I can
is?
tell you we have two different, let me just start by saying this. We have two different types of waters. We have the pure fresh water, which is outside of this, and it's coming up, which is your waterfalls and all of that, your prime water.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not seawater. Our water got salted because when they domed this damn thing off, all those bodies started to deteriorate. Well, where do you think that was going to go? It's
Yeah.
coming from the body.
Yeah.
That's why it got salted.
Yeah.
The water got salted from the dead beings.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of it is a type of plasma from the bodies that
Yeah,
came
think
off.
about all of what they call iron. That's blood.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
blood.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, in your lifetime here in the 3D Sonia version of reality, you've been abducted?
Many times and still have been to this day.
Yep.
I'm abducted all the time. I'm waking up with finger bruises on my body at least once a week. Not just me, but so is Wendy. And they take me continually. It's ridiculous.
And who do you think are the parties that are taking you all the time?
I'm going to tell you a little story. I was being abducted by the reptilians, and they were torturing the fuck out of me.
Wow.
They had, the last time they took me was the last time they took me. They have, I would almost call it time wars. What all they are is let's just call them the good guys, because they have my own agenda at heart, and then we'll call them the bad guys, which they are on the opposite side. They had taken me once, and this was probably last year, and I had woken up and I could barely walk. And I had saw, and I'm like, what the hell's wrong with me? And then I saw they had caught me. They had these big, huge mallets with spikes on it. They crushed me from my waist down. They smashed my feet, smashed my legs, smashed my hips. And then I have trackers all in me. So the good guys came and got me so I wouldn't die. They put me into a rehabilitation machine, which rebuilt me. I was gone for I don't know how long, taken out of time and space. But when they brought me back, I remember them saying to me, take it easy. Don't be walking 6 and 10 miles. You can't do it. You need to let your body heal. And at that point, they doubled up the trackers on me, and they put something on me where someone's always around me. So if anybody tries to portal in, they ended up killing the beings that took me. They were reptilians. They killed them all because you're not allowed to touch me. I'm considered untouchable property. Property. I'm considered property. And because they did that, they went against the rules. They paid with their life.
Yep. Well, good.
There's
and what do you think that they were trying to do by crushing everything? Were they trying to debilitate you so that you'd be deactivated?
The biggest thing is that anger.
Yeah.
Anger. They knew they couldn't take my life, so they could torture me. They wanted me to remember. I don't remember the pain. I just see glimpses of it. I remember when they were crushing me, and blood and meat was spurring and bone chips everywhere. To my last breath, I was cussing them out, telling them, go ahead and kill my avatar, bitch, because I'm coming after you next. When I don't have an avatar, you better watch out.
Yeah, well, and that would scare them.
And that's exactly, and they were like, you just won't stop. And I'm like, no, nothing you do to me will ever make me stop.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yep. And it has to be that way. They're completely, they're not abiding by any laws. So no.
I have gotten a lot of body damages from them over time.
Yeah.
And but I've also got the other ones that are constantly healing me.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I fell out of my loft and I shattered both my vertebrae. And 2 years later, I was like, I ended up going to the doctors because every time I turned around to back my Jeep up in the drive, my arm was going dead. So I went and got an x-ray, and my doctor found 2 brand new vertebrae, and she's like, oh my God, get in here. I got to talk to you. Are you okay? And it's like, that was 2 years ago. And it's like, she goes, how did you survive that? I said, well, my husband was on heavy medication because of his spine surgeries. So I just borrowed some of his medication for 2 weeks, and then I was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really slow for like a month, but then I was okay. But I know what it was. I had serious intervention.
Yeah, exactly.
Period.
What do you think is the situation? Because we've got a lot of ghost activity going. I mean, it's going crazy.
All your ghosts or what have you are. Oh, Wendy, you scared the crap out of me.
What happened?
My daughter was standing there.
Oh,
I bring my daughter with me, but I turned around and he was just standing there. I'm like, oh my God, okay. So basically, all the ghost activity is them not going through the incarnation system.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't catch you in the incarnation system, you're literally just bouncing around here.
Yep.
This is why they're trying to tell everybody, get these ghosts and tell them to go to the light.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Don't go to
I
the
mean,
light.
I'm just seeing activity like I've never seen it, really. I mean, it's just the cryptids are coming into the cities for crying out loud, you know? They're all
Yep.
just starting to hang out. It's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's the cryptids that the government's creating, right? And releasing.
And they've been creating them. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. My daughter introduced me to Lilith Dread.
Oh, yeah.
Because she listens to Lilith. I'm like, what's that? She goes,
Mm-hmm.
Mom, you got to listen to this. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I'll listen to it because then I'm going to remote view it. And then it's like, you bastards.
Yep.
They're taking original cryptids
Yep.
from the very beginning of the first reset.
Yep.
And they're modifying them.
Yep.
It's horrible.
Oh, I know.
And they're torturing the hell out of them, by the way.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Absolutely.
So you gotta feel sorry for the cryptids. So here's another thing I'm gonna add. What happens when you have too many cryptids fighting for the same space? Why do you think they want to put people also into 15-minute cities? Because they want to open up all the free land to all the cryptids so they could do more shenanigans. That's what that's about.
Well, and
that's why they want 75% of the property or the land in America to be not human.
And that's also why they want to encourage people to go into provincial parks so that they can be food.
That's right. Eaten. Because, yeah, that's exactly it. Go to the parks. It's safe. As soon as I found this stuff out, I did a video and said, stay the hell out of the parks. Don't go there.
Yep.
Unless you want to be served up for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. It's just... Okay, well, would you like to add anything today? Because we're at an hour and a half, and I think that
oh my gosh. Okay.
I mean, you know, it'd be great to have you on again if you're interested.
Okay,
and
sounds good.
And we can talk about different things as well for people, because I know they're going to have a lot of questions, and I think that'd be fabulous.
Yeah, there are a plethora of things we can talk about. We have barely hit the surface.
Oh, yeah. And I know, an hour and a half just went by like crazy. It was just like, boop.
I know, I get that a lot. They're like, oh my God, the whole hour went by already? And it's like, yeah.
You know what would be interesting? It would be kind of interesting to talk about some of our experiences, because I know people really like that. Because there's so much to be said about the things that you've actually been through.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That sounds interesting. Maybe we'll have to do something about that next time.
Right? Because even just us discussing things today, like when we were talking about the pyramid of Egypt, Cheops, I've had experiences with that. It's just all these things were coming up. So it would be really good for us to maybe go into our actual experiences that, you know, correlate to all of this.
Yeah. I will tell you, there are so many pyramids that are in plain sight, and people think that they're just
mountains. I know.
They're everywhere. Yep. This entire place was a gridding system.
Yep. Yeah. I know they are. And there's nothing natural about many of the, I like to go on Google Earth, and I like to go to these really unknown areas and just go as deep as I can go. And I'm telling you, whenever I do this, I've noticed that Google Earth, after the fact, they white it all out.
Of course they do. And I love how all of a sudden there's just snow on everything too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right, yeah. I have taken footage of some of it that thankfully I did record that, and I should just put it on a video one day. There's just a lot of stuff that I have. But anyway, would you like to say anything before we finish for today?
Well, please come to my channel, check out some of the stuff on Odyssey and YouTube, Tree of Knowledge. I do have a Patreon. I do 2 hours on Patreon which you might know.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of dive deep on that. I ask questions and people ask me questions, and we do, reciprocate. So I have a question box also if you want to ask anything. I also do, I have tiers, and for my high tier of $50 a month, you get all of that. But I also give you a half an hour to an hour and talk to you, ask me absolutely anything about absolutely anything.
Mm-hmm.
So let me pump
Including,
that too.
right, including because you remove you as well, you can go into information about a person. So they may want
That's
information
right.
about something that they've experienced. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I've had other content providers telling me that's too cheap. And I'm like, I wouldn't charge anything if I didn't have to.
I know. I know. Right. I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's just there's just so much. And sometimes it's hard to know where to start.
Yeah.
So I want to give a little hope to the people because I don't want them thinking, oh my God, what if I'm a spinal column with a spinal cord trapped in a jar? And, so I want to maybe give them a little hope that that isn't who you are. Okay. That's just, and because time doesn't exist, not the way that the linear time is here, even though you may have been in that position for, let's say, millions of years, let's just say, it wouldn't
Hmm.
register that way. It would register like it
Yeah.
was quick. So you'll be
Yep.
okay. Just got to get you aware of what is actually going on here, and then you can return to your prime self.
Exactly. And I will add this in. This might make a lot of people happy. The first people to wake up are going to be the ones that have come in to wake everybody else up. So if you're the only one that's awake around everyone you know, odds are you're not human. You've come
Yep,
in.
exactly.
That's a big one.
And that's a beautiful way to end off. Because I think
Hmm.
everybody here who's listening is that one of the ones that came
Yep.
in because of love to do this. So,
Absolutely. And it was done. It was done as love, and love is the highest
yep,
expression of source you could ever have.
yep.
So
And that's a beautiful way to end this. Sonia, I love this. This is wonderful. I'm looking forward to us doing this again. And maybe, yeah, delving into personal stories.
okay, sounds great. It was wonderful talking to you too. And I wanted to say, do you say your name Lauda?
Lauda, yeah,
Lauda. Okay.
yeah.
Because it's like
Hmm.
I want to pronounce it correctly.
And with your name, I'm always wanting to say Sonia, and it's Sonia.
My German
Sonia,
pronunciation is yeah, is Sonia. My
right?
father always called me Sonia, but
Yeah,
my mother called me Tanya. Well, did
right.
before she died.
What do
So
you prefer?
either way,
Okay,
doesn't matter. You can call me anything.
okay.
As long as it's not a cuss word. Don't
Well,
care.
this is wonderful. Enjoy your beautiful afternoon. Say hi to the Sabe
Wendy? Yep.
and to Wendy. Hmm. And
All right. And you have a great what's left of your afternoon.
yep,
So
sending
hopefully
love.
you're look
Oh,
so
yeah, sending love. And I'm sending love to everybody. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you real soon. Hopefully, real soon.
bye.